Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the independence and fighting spirit of those of you who have Mars within the 7th house within your natal birth chart, but also for those of you who have the sign of Aries ruling your 7th house within your natal birth chart as well, so looking at having an Aries descendant. However, before we do dive into today's video, make sure that you give this video a like if you do like it. Also, make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and of course click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have a merchandise store along with some practical ebooks available. So you can go to the links in the description box below if you are interested in any of those. Okay, so with all of those introductions out of the way, Mars in the 7th house and Aries ruling the 7th house individuals, let's do this. Okay, so if you have Mars in the 7th house or the sign of Aries on your 7th house, then what this suggests is that you have the tendency of rushing into and away from relationships that you form with others. Now, of course, the speed depends on the sign Mars is in if you do have Mars in the 7th house. And the sign can also show you how you go about approaching your one-on-one relationships in general. But there still seems to be an impulsive urge to get your relationships moving. So for example, you might be quick to tell your partner, I love you, or we should become official, or maybe you wish to know where you stand pretty quickly, especially given that you typically know fairly early on what you want from the relationship due to a rush of desire and excitement and passion and lust. Then again, it could also play out where it's your significant other who's being the decisive one and who is more sure of what they want whilst you think things over a little bit. You might even play hard to get, or you might enjoy the chase that comes with relationships. Perhaps the idea of a few suitors fighting over you excites you or turns you on, or maybe other people's sexual desire towards you, their sexual attraction towards you really excites you, provided that you are also attracted to them, of course. In fact, it could be suggested that when you get into a close relationship, you crave the sexual passion and that chemistry. You love the physicality that comes with partnerships, and the more spontaneous and adventurous and active and action-packed, then the better. Again, perhaps it depends on the sign that Mars is in, because if Mars is in a water sign, for example, maybe you're not seeking after as much energy and all the action within your relationships. Perhaps deep and introspective and emotional moments matter to you much more. Or if Mars is in an earth sign, for example, maybe security and stability are very important to you, and so you won't be reckless or impulsive. There may be more of a steadiness, but there's still that passion and strong desire nonetheless. And so it's the type of passion and desire that makes you want to pull your partner close and just take off their clothes. And there's also the pleasure and the enjoyment that you get from your partner seeing you as sexy and hot. Or maybe it's important to you that you have your sexual urges and desires met within your relationships. However, now this is a big however, the thing about the 7th house is that it also represents qualities of the self that feel far removed from our personality, suggesting that perhaps you don't see yourself as sexual or as even sexy or as hot or even as impulsive within your relationships. Perhaps it's through others that these things are mirrored back to you. So for example, maybe you attract someone who is sure of what they want, someone who is fiery and direct and passionate and isn't afraid of showcasing their sexual energy. But then you start competing with this person over what you want. Then their sexual desires kind of are pushed to the side a little bit, and then yours come first, and you must win. You must win against your partner. Or another example could be a close friend who starts competing with you. Next thing, you're starting all of your energy into winning this competition in an attempt to attract a particular sexual partner. Though following on from this point, you might also be unaware of your short fuse and of your impatience within your relationships. You might actually say it's the other person, and maybe it is, but maybe you don't quite realize how much you can act in similar ways. Maybe you see yourself as more clear-headed and rational and reasonable, but when you get irritated and you get angered by your significant other, it may be quite obvious, especially to them. You might actually go looking for an argument within your relationships, or if your partner or your friend comes to you and brings up an issue, you can have the tendency of being confrontational and defensive too. You might even show aggression, but again, perhaps you don't see such qualities as a part of you. So I do wonder, is it that things like anger and assertiveness were not encouraged throughout your younger years? Mars in the 7th house, Aries ruling the 7th house individuals. Was your identity and your independence denied, or did it seem as if you couldn't stand up for yourself? Maybe in extreme cases you were overpowered sexually, or maybe you felt like you couldn't be someone within your own right. You had to sort of compete with others, and so you bring these instinctive qualities into your one-on-one relationships, where you also make it seem like you don't need anyone. This could be the likes of a friend or a partner coming to you and saying, what you did really hurt my feelings, or I didn't like what you did there. But then you act all tough like, well, I'm not forcing you to stay, you're free to go if you want. It can become quite an immature energy, like, well, if you don't accept me for who I am, then you know where the door is. I'm independent, I don't need you. So suggesting an inability at times to actually compromise and reason and understand where the other person is coming from. And that way of acting within relationships can be very challenging, though perhaps such actions stem from something much deeper and much more sensitive within yourself. Which, by the way, you might not let on how sensitive and emotional you can be within your relationships. Maybe underneath your aggression and pushy tendencies, there's a tenderness, there's a softness, there's this individual who is yearning to get really close to someone, but you just find it challenging to act on it. Perhaps when you have acted on getting close to somebody else in the past, well, maybe you were pushed back, maybe you were rejected, or perhaps your wants and your desires didn't align with another person's wants and desires. I mean, it's all well and good to jump into exciting and new relationships, but I think for you, Mars in the 7th house, Aries ruling the 7th house individuals, you also bring forth a type of defensiveness and do not mess with me attitude that, yes, these things can be used to your benefit at times, but at times you might push other people away. And sure, you may typically be the types of people, especially if you have Aries in the 7th house and you have a Libra rising, you may be the types of people who are all about compromise and seeking harmony and just wanting to get along. But it's just that when you enter into these one-on-one relationships, there's these other parts of you that start to come out. They start to come to the surface. And if you ever sense that your partner is being demanding, you might also bite back. You might become angry. You might become really, really annoyed. And I wonder, is it that you're just so used to maybe not wanting to rock the boat, or you're so used to keeping the peace, and so there's a bit of an awkwardness with asserting yourself, and then you come across as super aggressive. Next thing you know, you are calling all the shots and you are refusing to let go of your side of the argument. Oh yeah, you, Mars in the 7th house, Aries ruling the 7th house individuals, you can be quite the hotheads. You might not stop until your arguments are made clear, and so you push and you push and you push. And I'm not going to sugarcoat things here. This may possibly result in continuous fighting between you and your partner. It's not to say that you don't love each other, of course, but you may not know when to just give it a rest, because you must win, damn it. Though to be fair, it could even be suggested that it's your partner that acts this way towards you more specifically, and then you get to a point where you just draw the line, you've had enough, and then you push back, and it just becomes a back and forth challenging process. Could even be a situation where you frighten possible partners away due to how strongly you push to make things happen and to get things moving within the relationship. You might even push for a marriage fairly early on within the relationship, and then there's a divorce a short while after. You tie the knot, or you might even call off the engagement because you're bored, or because you want a partner who is more challenging or is more energetic, who is just more fired up. Then again, perhaps for some of you, you know what, you decide, I don't even want to ever get married because I much prefer my independence. It's like, I don't want to have to answer to another person for the rest of my life. I can't imagine anything worse. Or maybe for others of you, marriage itself is the challenge. It's like a conquest, a new exciting adventure that you can't wait to pursue. And so you will push yourself to make things work out. You'll focus on your own actions and on what you are doing as an individual and on what you bring to the relationship. And you'll be bold and daring, and you'll also be encouraging and motivating towards your partner. Maybe for those of you who act this way, you also go through those first initial immature stages of approaching relationships, like I mentioned earlier, but still, when you know, possibly resulting in I will do everything within my power to put my best foot forward within this relationship. And so in this respect, you become a relationship leader, a relationship pioneer, someone who knows how to take charge within your relationships in a much more healthy, impactful, effective way. And your fighting spirit comes out. Though on the other hand, for those of you who have experienced aggression or possibly even violence within your one-on-one relationships, your fighting spirit also comes out. Your inner warrior comes out and says, I refuse to go on like this or to be treated in this way. And if you ever hear of a loved one or a close relative being hurt or put down within their relationships, you will most likely be the first person to defend and protect Mars in the 7th house, Aries ruling the 7th house individuals. And again, if your independence ever feels threatened or under attack, you will be quick to stand up and to defend yourself. Now, like I said, there may be some of you who prefer, you know what, not to be in a relationship at all. But then there's also those of you who feel motivated and energized whilst you're in a relationship, but you still prefer to have some level of independence. So being able to do your own thing and having some type of freedom to move and keep active, etc. Now, you may also prefer to achieve certain goals with your partner when in a relationship. So this idea of reaching certain milestones together, or working towards a particular desire or want that you both have. Maybe by forming goals, you feel more pumped and motivated, and it's important that the spark is alive and well within your relationships. And this also applies to your clients and your customers. In fact, it could be suggested that you are very active and you're very, very energetic towards potential clients and customers. So this could be the likelihood of you having your own business, for example. Well, you will most likely create goals and targets for yourself in order to ensure that you do well within that business. Or you will create goals and targets for your clients and customers to reach to ensure they succeed, or in order to ensure that they get the most out of whatever you're selling and providing. You can be quite the leader and pioneer in this respect. The type of person who gets involved, really involved with your clients and customers' progress. Or maybe you're someone who truly motivates and encourages your clients and customers. You give them a rush of energy and you urge them to achieve their goals. Though at the same time, also think that you are less likely to accept rudeness from any potential customers and clients that you have. You might be quick to call someone out on overstepping the mark, for example, and you will not tolerate it if someone tries to tear you down either. Same thing could be applied to enemies or to people who wish to see you fail. Yeah, you will keep going. You will keep fighting regardless of any haters and enemies. In fact, you might even become more motivated to keep going because it's like, you can't beat me, you can't win. I'm the one who is winning here because I'm remaining in my own lane and worrying about myself. So I suggest you do the same. Again, perhaps the sign along with aspects come into play, respectfully. And also, as I said, maybe this fighting spirit and this independence, these things are brought out due to others. But when these parts of your personality start to kick in, it might be difficult to actually calm down or for you to see things in a different way. Though I suppose something to be aware of is actually to do with how you have the tendency of taking your annoyances and your irritations and your anger out on others who are quite close to you, especially those who are very close to you. In fact, you might take these people for granted at times because they are close. Therefore, perhaps it's a good idea to reflect or pause before you say or do something that is irrational or reckless. Heck, you might even fall out with family members or close relatives. And even if it was partly your fault, or it was your fault fully, you might not apologize, as you still wait for the other person in question to come to you. Then nothing is resolved. Conflicts aren't actually being addressed, which can lead to more tension and conflict. Then again, it could even be suggested that you just find conflicts and disagreements far too overwhelming, just too much to handle at times. So you may prefer to avoid them, not address them. Though in this way, maybe it would be a good idea for you to address times when you act in these types of ways. Now don't get me wrong, it could be that you have a valid reason Or perhaps there's something deeper to look at here. This is what I'm trying to get at. There's possible deeper things that are being projected onto your relationships. Mars in the 7th house, Aries ruling the 7th house individuals. Though the last thing that I do want to mention is how you have the tendency of defining your identity through your one-on-one relationships, suggesting that your identity is formed through other people. And so if this is the case for you, again, maybe it's a good idea to address why this may be. Again, is it that your identity was denied growing up? Did it not feel like you had any independence or freedom to explore the world for yourself? Were you brought up having to live your life through a parent or a relative? Though, whatever the case may be, it is you, Mars in the 7th house, Aries ruling the 7th house individuals who are learning to find yourself, so to speak. And perhaps the ways in which you go about doing this is with the help of other people. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video all about the independence and fighting spirit of those of you who have Mars in the 7th house, but also for those of you who have Aries ruling the 7th house / Aries on the descendant within your birth chart. Now, if you do happen to have any of these placements, then please let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button and also make sure that you give this video a like, remember. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!